Michelle Marie McGrath. Hi there, and today I'm happy to be speaking to the vibrant Adele McConnell, aka Vegie Head. Adele is a published and best-selling digital author, owner of VeggieHead.com and the Vegie Head Academy, and she also writes for national magazines. She's appeared on the cover of health magazines across the world and lives near the beach on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. Adele is a recipe evolutionist for people who want to enjoy more plant-based recipes in their diet. She creates food with integrity and encourages others to live a powerful life with powerful plant-based food. Her site Vegie Head is a place where saucy, tempting recipes live and Adele's inspiring words touch hearts. Adele's first published cookbook was released worldwide in March 2014 and has been reprinted 3 times and is now available in 3 languages. For more about Adele's work, including Vegie Head's VIP Clubhouse, go to vegiehead.com. So welcome, Adele. I'm so happy to have you here today and really looking forward to talking to you about this whole fascinating topic that's becoming really sort of, a lot in the media at the moment on being child-free and childless and the reasons and the circumstances for that.
Yep, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be talking about it as well because I think it's something that is so underrepresented and it needs to be spoken about.
Yeah, and just to be sort of, making it sort of much more normalised in a way to be able for women to feel that they can talk more openly about their feelings about it.
Absolutely. No one does.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting time, I think, in our society and culture to be really able to start diving into this more and more and bring these things like, stop them from being taboos.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, I think this is an amazing thing that you're doing, bringing all of these wonderful people together and talking about a really important topic.
Yeah, that's right. And so, in terms of your personal background, Adele, in whether or not to have a child, can you share a little bit with us about, whether that was through specific circumstances or choice and how you came to that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a really bad ectopic pregnancy in 2010, I think it was. And an ectopic pregnancy, for those that don't know, it's where the egg is fertilised and it travels down the fallopian tube to go to the womb where it grows. But my egg never reached my uterus. It just stayed in my fallopian tube and it decided to grow in there. It can be fatal. It was scary. I was 10 or 11 weeks when they caught it. I didn't know I was pregnant. I thought I had a very, very heavy period. It was really strange. I just bled. I had no other symptoms. I didn't have any, breast tenderness or morning sickness. I had nothing.
Wow.
I just bled. I bled and it wasn't until I woke up basically in a pool of blood. Like I'd been taken to the doctors and they could not find anything wrong with me. They just said I was having a heavy period. And then when they found out I was pregnant, they said it's completely normal to bleed this much. And then it wasn't until I woke up pretty much in a pool of blood in bed that my husband took me to the doctors and demanded them do another intravaginal scan. I'd had 4 and none of them could find anything.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really awful. I was rushed to hospital. I basically I was an hour and a half out of Melbourne and I had to turn around and come home. I had to rush into hospital and I went under emergency surgery that night.
Oh my goodness.
So it was, really scary. And I mean, ectopic pregnancies are very common and they are... there's no hard and fast cause of them. They don't know what the cause is. It's something that happens. And, my understanding from a health perspective and looking at it from a few different ways, like I got a lot of traditional Chinese medicine care afterwards. That's my chosen modality. And their belief is that a lot of mucus in the body and a lot of dampness in the body would cause something like that. And prior to my ectopic pregnancy, I'd actually done like a 4 or 6 weeks, a green smoothie fast. So for that time, that's all I'd had. So it was, looking back, I wasn't listening to my body and I wasn't listening to the signs. And, now I've got one fallopian tube gone. So I've only got one fallopian tube left, which means that I still ovulate, but nothing happens on every other month. But it also means that I've got 75% chance of having another ectopic pregnancy, but also only 50% chance of actually falling pregnant. So it's one of those things where I go, is it worth going through that again? For 75%, is it worth it? Probably not.
And was it, before you had that experience, was that something that you thought, you would like to have a child one day? Is it something you assumed that you would do? Or did you, feel kind of on the fence about it?
I've always been the type of person that I'm just not interested in kids.
Right.
I never have been. And, there are parts of me that sit there and go, I would love to have a child of my own one day, or I would love to, to be completely honest, the birth experience does not interest me at all. That scares the hell out of me.
Well, I think, for good reason.
Oh, my God, it scares the hell out of me. And given what I've gone through already, and I mean, my surgery and my recovery was excruciating. And that was the only surgery I've ever had in my life. So that was the only time I've ever been into a hospital, and it scared the shit out of me. So I'm not put myself voluntarily through that again. But, I've never been maternal, and I will happily, hug a friend's baby, or hug a little kid, or like whatever. But if I can give them back, I'm happy.
Yeah, so it's that right. I mean, it's still kind of, because I think sometimes there's this sort of myth that can exist as well, that like people, clearly you just don't like children, full stop. Whereas, there's so many women where they've got great relationships with either their nieces, nephews, godchildren, their friends' children, so it's not that there are no children in their life.
Exactly. And I love my niece. I've got a 3-year-old niece and another one on the way. And I love her. Like, I adore her. I've got a couple of girlfriends that have got kids, and I love them as well. And I think I'd love to be the cool auntie, and I've always kind of said that. I'm like, I'd rather be cool Auntie Dells, and not be, and not particularly a mother, which, it's never upset me, and it's never bothered me. And I think the thing that upset me most about having the ectopic pregnancy was that we fell pregnant by accident, like it was a total accident, and didn't know about it. So that was my own, our own stupidity that it happened, but also the fact that I was undergoing such serious surgery, and I had no control over it, and that really scared me and upset me. Whereas, if the choice was mine, my auntie at 18, my auntie who now is, she's 60 now, she had her tubes tied at 18, and she had said from a very young age, I'm not interested in having children. Right. And I've spoken to her about this a number of times, and she actually had an ectopic pregnancy, which is why she got her tubes tied. She wasn't interested in having kids. And I said to her, Sharon, she's a very, very well-known journalist in Sydney, and I said to her, what should I do? And she said, I've only ever met a couple of people in my life who can wholeheartedly say that it's a decision that they've made consciously. Some people, the decision's been taken away from them. She said, in my decision, in my life, I made the decision, and I had my tubes tied at a very young age. And it was conscious, and I wanted it that way. And, I got married to my husband, and, she's been with him for, 40 years. They knew going into it that they were never going to have kids, but she was an awesome auntie for us. She was very hands-on. They took us on holidays, and, she was incredible. And if anything, I see myself more as that feminine aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for every woman. And I mean, we've got enough children in the world who are, orphaned, abused, starving, to know that even if it's a biological ability, not every woman is a natural mother or should even be a parent, So we know that, don't we? But it's often that thing of, we feel that, like you were saying, you just didn't really have that kind of urge to think this is something that I absolutely, definitely want. No. Whereas some women do feel that very strongly. And I think if you know that that's for you, then that's great. But equally, if you know that that's definitely not your path, then, it's really important to really listen to yourself and follow that.
and to also respect people who say that they don't think it's their path. Like I've said so many times to friends, I'm really not that interested, and then I get the whole, oh, in 10 years you'll change your mind, or what about, would it be different if you had help, or what about if it was this way? And I'm just like, no, it's not. Do I question anyone else's motives on being a mother? Like, do I sit there and say, do you really want to be awake, like, late at night, early mornings, no more holidays, no more solo adventures down the shops? Like, would I say? I would never say that to somebody. There's got to be respect for women who make the conscious and unconscious decision not to have children, because I had that forced upon me so many times. Not so much in probably since my ebook Rituals came out, Michelle, which you were a part of. Probably since that. Before that, I would get a lot of people saying things like, so when are you and Paul going to have kids? And, this was from family members as well, and also my in-laws, my husband's side, and he said to them, stop asking, just leave Adele alone. Like, this is her decision, and it's something that she's been through a really painful experience, and she doesn't really want to go through it again. So, it was sad that he had to say that to them, you can't ask somebody that, I don't think.
Well, people do, though, don't they? And I think, if you see even how pregnant women are treated often, it's just almost like, your body is up for kind of public debate. And, even that, I think it's amazing how, complete strangers can sort of touch a pregnant woman. I think it's so it's invasive. I know it's well-meaning, but still, it's just it's a little bit strange.
I've even said to girlfriends, can I give it a cuddle? Like, I would never. It would be like me going up to a stranger on the street and saying, let me touch you, like, let me feel you up. I would never. Even to my sister-in-law, I say to her, can I give your belly a cuddle? Like, and I love that I can do that for my girlfriends and my family and my sister-in-law. I love that I can cuddle their bellies and do that, but you can't do it to a person that you don't know. Like, come on.
Yeah, obviously that's right. If it's somebody that you've already got like an intimate relationship with. But so obviously you having that experience, that really clarified that for you.
Yeah.
So it made it kind of, in a way, it made it much clearer for you. And so, were there any kind of sort of challenging situations that, came up after that? Any beliefs or questions that kind of, did it sort of send you into a period of like self kind of inquiry around it, or was it just something that you felt like really clear? Like, did you think, maybe later, or was there any of that or not?
I felt like it was my fault, and I remember laying in hospital, like I was in agony, and I don't take Panadol or anything. I'd refused all pain medication, and I was in absolute agony. I just had hot water bottles on my shoulders because I had really severe shoulder splinting, which is referred pain from the gas that they pump into your organs.
Right.
And I had hot water bottles on my shoulders and ice packs on my stomach just for the inflammation. And I turned to Paul and I was bawling my eyes out in pain and in fear and all of this sort of stuff. And I said, it's my fault. Like, I never wanted this. Like, I've never wanted a child. I manifested this, and it's my fault that this has happened. And he was amazing. And he's like, it's not your fault. Like, you can't say that. Like, this has happened for reasons beyond you. And that, it made me feel a bit better. But I did go into self-inquiry, and I did think, did I manifest this? I've been saying for years, I don't want children. I'm not interested in kids. Have I manifested this? Well, probably part of me still thinks that I have, and probably the logical part of my mind sees it as a manifestation of what I really want in life.
Yeah.
Which is fine, and I'm okay with it now, but it has taken, a long time to actually be able to talk about it freely and feel good about my decision. And I'm 31. I'm young, and if the time did come where I sat there and I went, oh well, maybe I'm ready. If that day ever came, then I'd have to just drop my ego and go with it. But I don't think it's going to come, to be honest with you. Like,
I think it's just being really honest with yourself and, like you say, listening to your body, listening to your instinct. Now, it's interesting that you say that, because when I was married, I felt always very resistant to having a child. I was always felt very in the middle about it. Yeah. I think it's not something I feel I absolutely have to experience. That is not the thing for me that I feel will bring life meaning. I think it's just one path, and it's one path to fulfillment, and that's great, but I don't know whether that's going to be for me. And I always had that question in my mind, even from being a child. And then, Towards the end of my marriage, I ended up having a molar pregnancy, but from day one, even from the day of the conception, I knew, the whole time I thought, this is not going to eventuate in a baby. I just know I just couldn't imagine having a child with my ex-husband, even though we'd been together such a long time. But I just sort of thought, well, it's just not something I can see. I can't, so the whole way through, I knew that was not what that experience was about. And then, of course, when I went to have the scan and speak to the doctors, and they told me it was, a molar pregnancy, which is a very specific type, there was a part of me that just sort of went, well, you didn't really want this. And so, it was just not meant to be. It's just not, it was just that thing of, there was a part of me at that time that had thought, well, I'm 35, maybe I should be open to this, and so I was really I knew that it wasn't right for me, so it's funny how we sort of have these experiences that then really reinforce, that our bodies know, we do have that innate wisdom, and sometimes it's inconvenient to listen to it, and so I think the body is amazing. It's such an amazing, divinely, created sort of, it's intelligence system. I mean, it's remarkable, really.
Absolutely. And it's, one of those things where we don't give ourselves enough credit and listen to ourselves enough to know. And when we do finally listen to ourselves, we're like, okay, that makes sense, and that's why that happened. In my life, I don't think, that having a child is on the cards. However, if it came to fostering, like Paul and I are very open to fostering, and we've spoken about it a number of times, or adopting, and that would be something that, as you said at the start, there are so many children out there who need homes, and they need loving parents. And I don't think that love or parenting has anything to do with biology. I don't think that I don't think that we need to give birth to someone to be their mother.
No.
I have been in mother situations to so many people, and my animals. I don't think that you need to be a biological mother to someone to give them the motherly love that they want.
That's right, and just to extend that nurturing and caring, So
yes.
I mean, it's interesting with that. So obviously, we're extending that feminine, mothering, sort of caring, loving energy in so many ways in different parts of our lives, and so. It's obviously, it's up to each individual to see which way is most fulfilling and rewarding for them, and, what brings meaning and all of that. And so, like you say, you've got your animals that you sort of have that kind of relationship with as well. I mean, I'm not saying that's the same as having a baby, obviously, but it's an experience of...
Exactly.
I mean, I could just imagine sort of, parents thinking, well, it's not really the same as me having my dog, but what I mean is it's just an example of having like a loving bond.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously animals show us that amazing sort of unconditional love.
Absolutely, and I think that I call my dogs my babies, and I treat them like humans. They sleep inside with us. Most of the time they sleep in the bed with us, or they try to. Like right now, they're both sitting on their respective places on the couch sleeping, and I'm grateful that I can be here with them, all day, and I can, they still need the same love and care that a child would need. They need stimulation, they need food, they need water, they need love, they need bathing. They get walked twice a day. That we take them to a park where they can interact with other dogs. It's like doggy daycare, or like child. It's like kindergarten, right? They get breakfast and dinner. They get snacks during the day. They always have fresh. It's I have to put sunscreen on one of my dogs because she's got such fair skin. These are the sorts of things that parents do for children. So I still have to mother them. And they give me back. They give me grief like a child would. I know that they do. Like one of my dogs is a puppy, and she's just on 12 months old. She's a nightmare, and I'm telling you, she would be exactly what like a 12-month-old to a 3-year-old kid would be like. She's just as much work, and she's completely deaf. So this is where I think that having a dog is great, great if you're practicing to be a parent, because I think that they're hard work. I think they're harder work. Like, I really do.
So I mean, I suppose that's really an outlet for you to kind of really share that nurturing side of yourself. And then, of course, you're sort of really extending a lot of that through everything that you're doing with your business, through your sharing your love of plant-based food, your cooking, nurturing, all of that's all very kind of feminine and caring, that, you're really calling on those qualities and attributes in your work and through that you're sharing with a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to happen.
Yeah.
I see food as, if we've got a loving relationship with food, then we can eat it lovingly. We can feel good about it, as opposed to, having these confusing and disparaging relationships with food which don't do us any good. And when we're eating good food and we're fueling our bodies, we're saying to our bodies that we love them, and we are mothering our own bodies in a way and nurturing. So, for me, food, working with, with select women, connecting with select people, and really making sure that, that my cup is full allows me to do it for other people as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so that really is, like you say, it is kind of that mothering yourself and, treating yourself like you would treat a child that you love in that way, showing yourself kindness. And obviously you're really role modelling that through the relationship with food and sort of writing and educating about all of that. And you're also creating a book of recipes for dogs.
Well, exactly. And and this again goes back to, why would we be feeding, I see mothers cooking the most amazing things for their kids and then eating crap themselves, or vice versa, and not knowing what to feed their children. And for me, why would I feed my dog dry food, or why would I feed my dog canned food? I never have, and I never will. And this is something that people have been begging me to do for so long.
So interesting.
And it's something, for me, it's natural to get up in the morning, take them for a walk, come back, cook their breakfast, or make enough so that they've got dinner for that night or breakfast for the next morning, whatever. I often do it in bulk, so it's easier. Yeah. But this again goes back to nurturing someone else other than ourselves, but also I'm nurturing myself because, I've got to cook for them, and it gives me love and happiness to do that for them.
Yeah, and so, I was just thinking about as well, when you were also talking about the possibility of being open to fostering and adopting, that kind of thing. And, it seems, though, with that it's actually quite a difficult process for people to go to. So, I mean, it's a shame, if there are obviously so many children who would really benefit from a loving home, and there's so many people who would love to, have a child, but they may not be physically able to for whatever reason. And so, I mean, it'd be interesting really over the years to see if those sorts of processes become easier so that that's more accessible for, suitable parents to bring a child into their family, because it seems that it's quite difficult.
It is, and, again, what you said earlier about that there are some women that should not have children, there are, I see gross negligent, when I was nursing, I would see, meth babies. I see people who smoke around children. I see, I used to see, cases of, kids being pushed downstairs and taken into hospital. And I mean, it's just not on. Yeah. And the cases of child abuse are so large. There are women that really should not be having children and men who should not be fathers. However, that's unfortunately not our judgment call to make. But what should be within our rights is to say, well, we are good people. We do have love to give, and we've got a home with a clean environment. We've got, good food on the table. We've got, we're both educated. We both work. We're both professional people. Why shouldn't we be able to easily adopt or foster a child? And I had a girlfriend that went through she was trying to go through the adoption process, and it was sort of, 4 years in, she lost her job. She was made redundant by her job, and she actually couldn't get another one in her industry, and they crossed her name off the list and said, you are not eligible to be an adopted mother, to adopt a child. And this was something that they'd spent tens of thousands of dollars on seeing lawyers and going through the process, and one little thing happens, and her name was crossed off the list. Whereas I know mothers that have never worked, and I know mothers that aren't interested in working and that they live on welfare. So why couldn't she have gone through that process? And it pisses me off that they make it so hard when there are women and men out there that are amazing and that would be great to give a home to someone that really needs it, and they can't.
It's very kind of challenging, and I mean there's so many kind of sad stories with that, really. And
it's really hard here in Australia. It's apparently it's a lot easier overseas, but here in Australia the laws are just very strict, and I understand why.
Yes.
They do need to be strict to protect the children. However, I also think that, if you're a good person, they're gonna see that straight away. Like, they're not gonna have to look very hard if you're a bad person, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see if that changes or not over the next couple of years, whether or not there are going to be these other avenues, whether that's going to be opened up in any way at all with different policies and procedures.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
So well, on that, Liddell, I was just thinking about, so for you, what do you feel is your most important message then? So if you're not, continuing on your lineage or legacy through the traditional way of sort of having a child, what would you like to leave as your message?
I think that leaving, something to the world is a beautiful thing, and that, I've put things out into the world which I know will be there forever, which is fine. But, on a grander scale for me, it would be, well, what can I do to, change the lives of, either the people around me or the animals around me? And for me, it would probably come down to working closely with dogs. And I know that sounds silly, but, working with dogs in a sense that, they get abused as well. They get mistreated as well.
A lot of animal cruelty.
It's so much animal cruelty, and for me, dogs are where my heart lies. And I see it in so many animals, but dogs are definitely my thing. And for me to be able to leave either some sort of whether it be more books about the subject or just educating people about it, or some sort of charity, I'm not sure, but definitely leaving something in my wake like that would be incredible. But I really think it's just on an everyday level as well. So how can you touch, move, and inspire every single person that you meet, every single person that you see, so they remember you one day.
Yeah, and that you've had that positive kind of ripple effect in what you're doing. And so really, I mean, that just really reinforces, doesn't it? If we're really connected to what we feel passionately about and what we believe in, if we're really sort of operating from a place of our own values and just really being ourselves and giving ourselves permission and then sharing that, that can only be of positive benefit.
Absolutely. You're going to benefit everybody, and especially yourself, because you're living and speaking your truth.
That's right, and that's all we can ever hope for, isn't it, really? And then, of course, that just allows other people around us to hopefully do the same as well, if that's something that they're struggling with.
Definitely, absolutely. It's what we aspire to do and be.
And so, really, just kind of respecting like each woman's path, whatever that may be.
Yep, absolutely, and not making a judgment call, like not looking at someone who's, in their 40s and saying, well, why, you didn't have kids, you must hate them, or, you're not well enough to have children. It might just be the fact that they didn't want them. And I'm a loving person, and if one of my friends comes over with their little kid, here's some colouring books, here's a little, thing of texters, go for your life, have some fun. It's not like you'd put them in a corner and pretend that they're not there. It's not about that at all. No. You just you give them the same love that you'd give anyone, but you've got the beautiful ability of being able to say goodbye at the end of the day and continue on without that in your life, which is something that I'm grateful for. I love my own space, and I love doing things for myself, and not in a selfish way, but if I can't give to myself, I cannot give everything that I'm giving out into the world.
That's right.
It's
Absolutely.
as simple as that.
It really is. So, well, thank you so much for sharing all your insights and your thoughts. That's beautiful. And For everybody listening, you can find out more about Adele at vegiehead.com, where she shares a wealth of information, recipes, courses, all sorts on there. So you'll be there for quite some time looking at all the amazing photos.
There's plenty on there to keep people amused.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Unclassified woman.